which one would you choose to be with or get married to? And she said, I choose a werewolf. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Ooh, did she say why?
I think it was like the warm blood. I mean, you know, you ever wake up in bed next to somebody who's got cold feet and cold hands?
Yep.
That's like vampire. They're cold everywhere. So,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, you said
never gonna have
yeah,
that
so
problem
who
with
do
a
you know
werewolf.
with cold feet?
I am saying nothing
Anybody
about
leave
that.
now?
Hey, here we are.
Hi, cheers,
And,
guys.
Good to have
Cheers.
you here, Joe.
Thanks, Stan. Good to be here.
Joe, I want to test you. How do you pronounce your last name?
Manganiello.
You got it right, son of a gun. That's pretty good.
First time.
What a treat to be with you. True blood Joe Manganiello.
Flash Thompson, Joe Manganiello.
That's right. Well, that I should have said first, because
Yeah.
to me, that's the most important.
Yeah.
From Spider-Man #1, right?
You were responsible for my first job in Hollywood.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the payoff later. This is we don't want to talk finance now. But was that really your first job in Hollywood?
First job in Hollywood, yeah. I met Sam Raimi the week that I got out of drama school and read me for Flash Thompson, and I got the part.
Right out of drama school.
Yeah.
Hey, wasn't Sam Raimi, and isn't Sam Raimi a great guy?
I love Sam. Yeah, Sam's not only a great director, but he's a really generous and hysterical person. Really, really, really funny.
He has every good quality you could want in a director or in a friend.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Well, but we're not interviewing him because he's far too important to come here. So we got Joe. All right, what the hell? We'll talk about you.
Sam was
Well,
busy.
yeah.
Right, well, we have to talk about how geeky you are, because I had read that you're sort of a geek in a football player's body.
That's
Sort of appropriate for Flash.
completely accurate. Yeah. Big geek. I mean, I read comic books so obsessively as a kid that I actually started shoplifting them as a kid. I would read them so fast that I couldn't pay for them all, so I'd shoplift them all. But to make kind of a funny side story.
If any policemen are listening, it's beyond the
Statute of limitations.
statute of
Yeah.
limitations.
Well, the point is that 14 years later, I went back to my mother's house, went into the closet. All those comics were still there in mint condition, and I called up the store in Pittsburgh, still there, same owner, and I went in and returned them all to the owner 14 years later. I actually have it on video somewhere, but
and he's now a billionaire because he
Yeah.
sold them.
Did you sign them all?
they're in perfect condition. Well, at the top of the stack were the Todd McFarlane Spider-Mans.
Oh yeah.
Which
yeah.
was kind of funny, I guess, that it manifested in me getting the role in the movie.
That's kind of awesome.
Todd
So-
McFarlane is another great guy we'll
Great
talk
guy.
about sometime.
Yeah, well, you draw as well, right?
As a kid, yeah, I drew obsessively. I was always had my nose in Stephen King books, or was drawing something, writing characters, creating all this stuff. My father just wanted me to go outside and play football because when you grow up in Western Pennsylvania and you're my size, that's it. So I put that geeky side away for about 10 years to go play sports year round. And then somewhere in high school, kind of got reconnected with that through my high school had a TV studio, and I would write these scripts and come up with characters for me and my friends, and we go out and film these big mafia, kung fu, martial art action movies, and that's really how my creative side came back out.
That's really cool. So now, when you were a geek as a kid, did you sort of hide that? Because being geek is the rage now.
No, I don't think I hid it at all.
When you're that big, you don't hide it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I went right into it. I was, like I said, all the books that I read, comic books. I always had a comic book somewhere.
I was fond of them myself. I had
You like
a
how
little experience with them. But the thing about you being a wolf, a werewolf, that I find, fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you hardly need any makeup. I mean, you look like one now with the beard.
It's the beard, yeah.
All you need are longer teeth, and I'd be terrified.
Well, my eyes turn yellow when I transform,
right.
Stan. Yeah. So,
Now, what do they do? Put contacts in?
no, it's by digital effects.
Oh, no, you don't have to do anything.
No, I just have to get angry.
Oh, that's great that now they can do it in the camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bit like the Hulk. You don't want to.
that's right.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so
I wouldn't even like you when you're not angry.
Well, I have to bring this up because I not only have a True Blood show, but I'm obsessed with the show. But there's a little something about vampire sex versus werewolf sex. Vampires seem to take 2 seconds. Werewolves, long and drawn out. Why is this?
I had a long conversation with Alan Ball prior to this season about werewolf sex and what it would be
did.
like, and the after effects on a normal girl versus a werewolf girl.
This is going to be our most popular interview. Now, let's hear it from the beginning.
And we agreed that a normal girl after having the morning after, let's say, would kind of wake up with that kind of thing and then kind of do the cowgirl walk all day. And, you know, and that translated into the scene in episode 8 where, you know, you have a werewolf on werewolf. And I'm pretty sure that's the first sex scene involving Hong Kong action wires ever.
He threw her across the room.
Yeah, that's what werewolves do. You know, she scratched
You
me,
should
bit
know
me.
that.
Yeah.
True.
And you know, you throw her across the room. It's very athletic, I would say, werewolf sex.
Is it satisfying?
Very.
Very. Not only athletic, but satisfying.
You know, but what I think is really interesting about True Blood and really interesting about this topic in particular is that, you know, you get to see an actual depiction of two superpowered characters
Going at
it. Where I think, you know, growing up, I loved Marvel as opposed to, say, some of the other companies because I think the characters, some of them were a little darker, they had a little more dirt on them, a little more grit, they were more human, more fallible, a little more gray area, and they hooked up with each other. You know, whereas other comic book companies kind of strayed away from that.
Yeah, we tried to play up their personal life almost as much as their adventure life.
Yeah. So it's fun to get to actually portray that because, you know, you don't necessarily sometimes see those superhero combinations.
But we didn't have too much. Well, we did have the She-Hulk, but we didn't have too many sex scenes with her. One thing we had with Mr.
Fanfiction.
Fantastic, you know, whose body could stretch.
Yes.
I used to get a lot of embarrassing questions. I won't go into great detail. I think you know what I mean. I never quite knew how to answer them.
Some of my first crushes growing up were like some of the Marvel superhero girls, you know, whether it was Rogue or even Tigra, which was kind of I guess a bizarre one, but
It doesn't matter. She was good looking.
she was hot, yeah, in this furry orange kind of way.
Well, I can see why your show is the hit it is. And there's also, besides the sex stuff, there's also action and acting and things going on.
Oh, yeah,
But
all
then
that
there are the
stuff.
sex scenes.
They are quite fantastic. But there's also, this is sort of like the Marvel superhero kind of thing because in the finale, and this I guess is a spoiler, but you really should have watched it live, Alcide does something negative to get a positive result. He takes V to win.
Yes,
It's very
about
Marvel
that?
superhero of you.
That's very deep.
it is.
I go
Think
deep
about that a
then.
bit.
Yeah, it is. He kind of breaks that perfect moral. Where I think more of the DC characters had that kind of strong, staunch moral code. Where the Marvel guys, Wolverine was gritty.
fallible.
Frank Castle was gritty.
That's right.
And there's a little bit of that in Alcide, I think, in the final episode.
Oh, absolutely. And that was dark. I mean, that was, his dad gave him drugs, Stan.
We never were able to show really the sex scenes in Marvel Comics because we had to be aware they were also young kids reading them. I always wish we could have an older version of them, not pornographic, but just to get a little more into reality. When they got together, what did they do? How did they do it? And
Have tea.
Well, a few years back, the Supreme Power comics came out, which were really, these grittier Marvel versions of the DC stories.
Yeah.
And they kind of got into that, like the Hyperion storyline.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of Superman parallel character with when he realizes, I could kill you all. I'm not human. I'm not even American. Why am I doing this? And I think he goes to a strip club to experiment because he wants to have sex for the first time and smokes cigarettes and tries to get drunk and it doesn't work. And so you get to see this kind of Superman in this really dark.
But that's really
twisted
good
way.
stuff
Yeah.
because anything that you can read like that and it makes you say, well, that's what I would do if I were him.
Completely.
And then you have and that's what,
If I was Superman, I'd go straight to the strip club. Yeah.
damn right. And you say, that's what makes a good comic book, that's what makes a good movie, that's what makes people interesting even in real life.
Yeah.
If they come out with interesting thoughts and they carry them through.
Yeah.
Now you take me, for instance. I'm aware that I have some fans here and there, so I exploit the hell out of it. Everybody I meet, I say, are you in the movie business? Yes. You make movies? Yes. Get me a cameo. I mean, I get right to the point. I don't waste time, and that's the way people should be, right?
Yeah.
Well, you
In
were
fact-
signing body parts the other day.
Oh, that is so funny.
That's a good perk.
At the well, I don't know how much of a perk it is, but at these comic
Depends on
book
what body part, I
conventions,
guess. Sure.
I do autographs sessions.
Sure. Dragon Con, let's
Yeah,
say.
that's right.
Yeah.
And very often a guy or a girl will come over to me and say, would you sign your name on my arm or my leg or whatever, because I want to get it tattooed. At first I thought they were joking, but I must have done a couple dozen of them already. So somewhere in the world there are people walking around with my name tattooed on various parts of them, and I don't know whether to be flattered or to think there's something very strange about this.
Probably a little of both.
I don't know
but
what
you know
it
what?
is.
You've made it.
Yes,
You know?
somehow I'm a tattoo.
You made it, Stan.
I've become a tattoo. You've never played a zombie, have you?
I have not played a zombie. I played a ghost once.
A ghost. How do you
Yes.
play a ghost?
Well, I played it in an episode of Medium where my character gets murdered and my ghost comes back the day my infant son is born. And I have this monologue to the baby in the crib and the baby
Wow,
can see me.
that's deep.
So it's pretty deep, yeah.
And how are you depicted?
Just pretty normal. I think
yeah?
the special effects budget was not that high on the
So it was just you, but I'm a ghost.
Yeah,
right?
just me but a ghost.
The reason I asked about the zombie is I have something. I have a little column called Stan's Rants on the internet. Things that bother me, and I talk about. This is one of the things that bothers me. It's nothing to do with anything, but if I were a zombie, if I came back from the dead, it seems to me, why would I want to go around killing people and eating them? I would be so happy I'm back. I'd be saying, ooh, look at me, I'm alive again, let's party. I mean, why do they become bad? Just because they're back from the dead.
So what you're saying is if you were a zombie, you wouldn't spend your time eating people, you'd go straight to the strip club and hang out with Superman and try to get drunk.
In fact, when you die, they should put little instructions, the address of the nearest strip club, just in case.
All roads.
See, I like a guy who thinks deep.
Did you write a comic book?
Yeah, well, as a kid I used to write them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to be a comic book artist as a kid. That was really, I think, what I
stopped
wanted
you?
to do first. Football. Probably
You
football.
like that better?
Probably football. Well, the thing is I've gotten back to it. So now I can, the job on True Blood is so great because I get to play a superhero, which combines, the artistic side, and the athletic side. So I get to
you're
do
right.
kind of all
You're
of that
right,
at once. And and then once you get into producing, then you get to, I get to write those comic books.
So, assuming the show won't last forever, because no show does, what do you expect to do after that? Where do you go from there?
Hopefully a superhero movie.
Ooh, who would you want to play?
I don't, but to be a superhero in a movie, you have to be big, you have to look powerful, you have to be good looking. What else would you? Maybe there's something.
I'm working
else.
on it, Stan. I'm working on it.
But those superhero movies are incredible, aren't they? How
Sure.
popular they
Well,
are.
and the technology right now. When I was a kid growing up, we didn't have
couldn't
that
do it.
technology.
You
You
couldn't
couldn't
do
do
it.
it.
Yeah.
I mean, even you look at 12 years ago or 10 years ago when Spider-Man came out. You look at the technology level then. And
Do
what
you
they can
remember the
achieve now.
Spider-Man television series, a very short-lived one, live action?
Sure.
It didn't look good. Him crawling up the side of the building, it looked like a special effect. You knew it didn't look real. But now,
You look at
my
the Avengers.
God,
I mean, it's
yeah.
incredible. They're fighting and the whole battle in outer space, and there's these space. I mean, it's wild.
You can do anything you can think of. You can put on the screen today, and that's why superhero movies are so terrific, because you're seeing things you've never seen before, and you're seeing things that you, as a kid, have always fantasized about. No, maybe we should talk about him.
We
What do you
could,
think?
we
Joe,
could,
what do you
because
think?
I've heard that you're very good at
He
impressions.
is our guest.
Oh, you heard about my
I
impressions?
heard about your impressions, so.
Oh wait, impressions?
Uh-huh.
How do you do? Give me an impression.
Let's see some impressions.
Oh yeah, let me tell you something, Stan. Yeah, all the little Stanomaniacs out there saying their prayers, eating the vitamins. Yeah, let me tell you something, pal. Only one can survive. Dig it!
Son of a.
I was Bonesaw McGraw from Spider-Man Part 1.
That is great.
That's awesome.
That is great.
Hi ho, Kermit the Frog here.
Oh my God. That makes
Come
me
on,
very
keep
happy.
going.
Going,
He's got a dozen of them, I can tell.
Marbly.
all right, that's it. I'm out.
You don't look like the kind of guy who does those kind of impressions.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome. Son of a
When did you
gun.
start doing those?
Probably in high school. I think, I did like a Rodney Dangerfield. My friend was like,
Oh,
"You
do
a
Rodney Dangerfield.
Hey, I took my wife to a dog show. She won.
That's a good line, too. That's a great line.
So yeah, friends just kept making me do them, and then over the years, you just compile them all.
Does True Blood ever think about maybe putting something in there? Some impressions?
I don't think that's
Alcide does
Alcide's
impressions.
style, man. Yeah.
I just thought of something. We were talking about, I said, why would a zombie want to kill people? Why wouldn't he be happy and joyous? I was just thinking, you should be a comedian. Forget the way you look. Forget that you're big and strong looking.
Saying
and
I'm funny
everything.
looking?
No, you should do funny stuff, and you're a very funny guy.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, you're not all that interesting as a guest, but as a person, you're a funny guy.
Well, I want to talk a little bit more about True Blood because I'm curious. A lot of fans are Team Alcide, and they would like to see Alcide and Sookie get together.
Yeah.
Where Sookie is not having a good year, it almost happened. What do you think?
Well,
That's very provocative. That was a very good thing
what
to
I do.
say, and
I
I'm
think
waiting for your answer.
Sookie needs to stay away from that peach schnapps, and I think everything will be okay. No, I think they'd be a great match. I think it would be an interesting match, and I think especially too after what happens at the end towards the end of the season, I just think he running the pack and kind of letting that dark side out a little bit. I think then that's interesting for him to come back to Sookie and for them to get reacquainted with the guy that he is now. I think that's an interesting matchup, but I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I always thought. I talked to Charlene, who wrote the True Blood books, and I asked her, out of all the pantheon of creatures, which one would you choose to be with or get married to? And she said, I'd choose a werewolf. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Ooh, did she say why?
I think it was like the warm blood. I mean, you ever wake up in bed next to somebody who's got cold feet and cold hands?
Yep.
That's like vampire. They're cold everywhere. So,
Yeah.
When you said
Never gonna have
yeah,
that
so who
problem
do
with
you know with cold feet?
I am saying nothing
Anybody
about
we
that.
know?
I got to tell you something, Joe. You belie your appearance. You look like a big, rough, tough guy. You speak beautifully. You're smart as hell.
Thanks, Stan.
You're funny. And how did we ever get him? How did we luck out getting him?
Sam
on the
Raimi
show?
wasn't available.
Yeah, oh, maybe that's what it was. No, but you're terrific.
Thanks, Stan. I
very
appreciate
impressed.
that. Thank you.
You know what? You ought to be an actor. You ought to
Yeah?
try that. I think you'd be good.
Maybe I could play
Do you
Flash
know anybody
Thompson.
will recommend him?
I don't know. I'm sure I can hook something up.
No, but when I asked you, what happens after the show, you'd be great in a superhero movie.
As a kid, I think that was all. I read those comic books, and I think every kid that reads comic books, you read those and you go, that's what I want to be. I didn't say I wanted to be an actor when I grew up. I want to be a superhero when I grow up.
I know what you mean.
Like I want to do that. So
The first comic book I read was Captain America. I wanted to be Captain America.
Right.
Who would you want to play if you were in a superhero movie?
Oh, jeez. I mean, growing up. I loved the Punisher. Growing up, very much. But I don't think they've nailed it yet, because I think they keep treating it like a comic book, rather than the human aspect of this guy loses his family, and some component in him snaps, and he uses that as an excuse to hunt human beings, which I think is
Bad
an
human
interesting
beings.
story. Yeah.
Right.
So and I think something closer to like what Michael Mann did with Heat, I think is probably what the Punisher needs to actually be believable and kind of work and click. But so I grew up with that. I was a big X-Men fan growing up. I loved Wolverine, but I also knew that Wolverine was like 5'2".
Yep.
So but then they cast Hugh Jackman, who's like my height, so that kind of flipped on its side. But I always loved the love story between Gambit and Rogue.
Oh.
This beautiful, beautiful woman who can never be touched, and what that must be like for her to have every man on the planet be in love with her, but she can't be touched, and then to have this Cajun thief who's gutsy and I don't care and I'm gonna kiss you anyway. Like I just thought that was such a magnetic storyline.
Well, he spots all the things that are really essential to making this dramatic and human and empathetic. And you're right. The idea of a girl who is so desirable, and she desires men too, and yet cannot be touched. That's as dramatic a theme as you could ever get anywhere.
Sure.
And it's in a lowly comic book. How about that?
But as a kid reading those stories, I went, man,
Yeah.
I want to be that guy who has the guts, and he kisses her and goes into a coma.
Yeah.
But like it's just such a, it's Shakespearean.
when I was young and very unsophisticated, my first kiss, I almost went into a coma. Oh my God, I didn't realize things could be so enjoyable. I was very young then.
We got to get you on True Blood, Stan. You'll yeah, that'll put you in a coma.
Oh.
So when am I going to get a cameo in True Blood?
You could be a werewolf if you grow the beard back out.
Yeah, well, I could always just get an artificial one.
Yeah, I could do it.
Do I have to be a werewolf? Couldn't I be?
What would you rather be? You got werepanthers,
I think I'm more
werewolves,
I
vampires,
think I'm more of a
shapeshifters.
vampire type, don't you?
Vampire type?
I could be a vampire, I think. Or I could just be a guy who's maybe caught between the two of them. And he has to talk his way out of it, and he doesn't succeed, and he gets eaten alive. Whatever.
Or just a zombie at a strip club.
Oh.
A happy zombie.
Happy
All
zombie.
right. Not an angry one, not a murderous one, a happy, grateful
zombie.
zombie.
Oh my
I
God.
think it can be arranged.
On that note, cheers.
You're ending it just when he starts mentioning strip clubs, and we had a whole new
You wanna
subject
talk
to
more
go
about strip
into.
clubs?
You're going
I
to
think that's been
frustrate
the
our
through line of
viewers.
this interview. has
All right,
been
I
strip
think that's
clubs.
about it.
Yeah.
Hey, great having you
Cheers.
here, Joe.
Cheers.
Thank you
Cheers.
for your help.
Would give us a
Excelsior!